Hello my beautiful friends, and welcome to Freya's Forge. I'm Kelshei, and I'm an initiated Wiccan High Priestess and Reiki Master, and I invite all of those of you who are called to this channel to learn all the witchy goodness that I wish that I had had access to as a newcomer in the craft. Today's video is all about herbs, so if you're interested in hearing more about that, stick around. Welcome back. I hate that we have to do this, but in today's society it is very litigious, and so you'll see a lot of disclaimers on many of the videos on this channel because we talk a lot about healing and divination and all sorts of stuff like that. And so because of that, I have to throw in the disclaimer that this is all for informational purposes. I'm going to put another one down kind of in the description, but it's all informational purposes, not a professional anything except librarian. So that's pretty much the schooling that I have as a librarian. So for this particular video, since we're talking about herbs, the major disclaimer is that I am not now, though I may be in the future, but as of this moment in the time-space continuum, I am not a licensed herbalist, I am not a physician, I'm not any kind of medical professional, and so please keep that in mind as we talk about these herbs. We'll be talking about some of the medicinals and some for magical purposes. So the two books that I'm referencing today are Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs and Anna Kruger's An Illustrated Guide to Herbs, Their Medicine and Magic. And I'll link those if I can find them on Amazon or someplace. I'll link those down in the description so that you can take a look at them. They're both really good. The versions that I have were published in the 90s, and so there may be an updated version. I'm hoping the Cunningham's does have an updated version, and I think it does, but I don't know about the Kruger book, but they're both really, really good. I like the Kruger book because it has pictures of all the herbs, their scientific names, and all of that good stuff. And in the editing studio, I'm going to put the names of the herbs and their scientific names and everything at the bottom of the screen so that you have the spelling and all of that good stuff. So these are the only real order that these are in is alphabetical, but I was tasked recently in discussing my top 20 favorite herbs, and so some of them are not necessarily favorites, i.e. I don't use them a lot, but they are herbs that we as witches should at least know about. So I wanted to kind of give an idea of some herbs. And so I hope that you enjoy the content today. And if you do like the content that we're putting up on the channel, I would really, really appreciate it if you would subscribe and hit that little like button. Just, you know, it helps the channel grow. We're a really new channel so far, and it'll just be encouraging me to put up more content if I see that people are actually enjoying the content that we're putting up. So without further ado, let's get started, shall we? So the first herb on our list is aloe. Most people probably have seen a big pot of aloe sitting in someone's kitchen. And the reason for that is that it's used externally as a burn treatment. I know growing up, we always had a pot of aloe in our kitchen, mostly because we're kind of accident prone. I'm not gonna lie about that, friends. But it's really good. You know, it's a succulent plant, and so if you get a burn, you know, if it's a major burn, please seek medical attention. But if it's a minor burn like you'd get when you're making bacon, you know, just snap off a leaf of it and squeeze the gel out of the center and apply it to the burn. It's also really good for dermatitis, eczema, and poison ivy. I'm having a good skin day today, but I am known to be prone to eczema, so it's found in a lot of commercial applications for skincare. For the magical properties of it, it's associated with the element of water and with the moon, and it guards against evil influences and prevents household accidents. So if it doesn't prevent the accident, you can use it to trick the accident. Okay. If you aren't laughing, that's fine. I can't hear you laughing, so I'm just going to assume that you are laughing at all of my jokes. Okay. So the next thing is Arnica. And it is used for bruising and to lessen the shock resulting from injury. Homeopaths, again, not a doctor, not an herbalist, not a homeopath. But at homeopathic dosages, it's used to stimulate the body's own healing powers. And it's valuable in aiding recovery after childbirth, surgery, and tooth extraction, which is pretty cool. You can probably tell I'm pretty fair-skinned, and I bruise hella easy, y'all. I mean, hella easy. So I love keeping Arnica in my medicine cabinet for that purpose. This one isn't one that typically has a lot of magical properties to it, but as far as I'm concerned, anything that grows that can be used for healing is magical, and that's its magical property. And, you know, we'll go into on this channel different, you know, the fact that I'm a master gardener, I really believe in the magic of growing things. So if it's an herb and it can grow and it'll heal you or feed you, it's magic. So, and, you know, we'll at some point go into Lady Kelshei's theories of magic, which might not be what you'd expect them to be, but stay tuned for that because it'll be coming up eventually. We'll get there. Okay, so our next herb is basil, and this is one of my favorite culinary herbs because it's just downright tasty, right? Again, that's magic, right? It is typically, at this point in today's society, it is typically used as a culinary herb, but it is known to be helpful in alleviating indigestion, stomach cramps, and stomach cramps as a tea, aka an infusion. If you're talking about herbs and you hear the term infusion, we're talking about tea. So when you get your Earl Grey down out of your cabinet and you heat the water and you dunk it and you have your tea Earl Grey hot, with apologies to Jean-Luc Picard, it's an infusion. It's magical. So reframe how you think about your evening tea, y'all. And we'll talk about some herbs that are good in evening tea. Magically, it's associated with fire and with Mars. It's also used for love, exorcism, wealth, flying, and protection. And I'll give my little disclaimer here. You know, when I was looking at the herbs that I really wanted to talk about for the workshop that I gave, and then of course for this video, it seems like all the ones that I picked are good for exorcism. So I'm just thinking I'm just going to make me a big old sachet of all these herbs, dunk them in my bath water, and then that way if I have to exorcise anything, I can just take a bath and soak in this infusion of exorcism helpful herbs. Okay, let's move on, shall we? Okay, so our next herb today is bay. A lot of us are probably familiar with the little packets from McCormick's of the leaves, but bay leaf oil is an effective rub for stiff or rheumatic joints. So if you get fresh bay, you know, you could make this muscle rub. An infusion, which is, again, a tea, may ease indigestion and flatulence. So I keep thinking, if it were safe to do so, I wonder if my dog would take some of it. I don't know. She's kind of flatulent. I'm hoping that she will behave herself in future videos, so you can get to meet her because she's beautiful. She's a 1-year-old today, German Shepherd, and she is just the light of my life. No offense to my cats, because they're pretty much the lights of my life too. Animal loving, people tolerating, moving on. So bay is associated with fire and the sun. It's used for protection, psychic powers, healing, purification, and strength. You can also use it if you are doing magical workings. You can write your wishes on the bay leaf with pen or pencil and burn them to make the wishes come true. I've been known to, if I'm working with my money bowl, I'll write my affirmation on the bay leaf, because bay is associated with money also, and I'll just write that on the bay leaf and drop it in my money bowl. There's some great videos out on YouTube on money bowl work. I might recreate one, but why reinvent the wheel, right? If there's interest, just hit me up in the comments and I'll see what I can do. Okay, the next herb is one that I included on the list, not because I encourage anyone, including myself, anyone to use it, but it is one that we as witches ought to be at least aware of. Every part of this plant is poisonous. Unless you are a well-trained herbalist, please just look at pictures of this one, because it is highly, highly toxic. And that's Belladonna. It has got powerful sedative and narcotic properties, sometimes sedative to the point of death, so please just say no. The extract is used medicinally to treat ailments characterized by spasms like Parkinson's, epilepsy, asthma, and whooping cough. But those are the chemists that have distilled the properties out of the belladonna and use them medicinally. So please, just there are other herbs that are much safer to use for similar purposes, especially magically, which is what a lot of us will probably use that for. It is associated with water and with Saturn, and it's used to encourage astral projection and produce visions. And I suspect it probably would produce some visions. I'm not going to try it though. If I want to produce visions, I have other techniques that I can use. Okay, on to one that's a little bit safer to use. I have used this one myself to great effect, especially during cold and flu season, which we are now in, if you're watching this when it goes live. If you're watching it in the middle of summer, maybe not so much, but right now on December the 1st, it is cold and flu season where I live in Northeast Tennessee, and that's boneset, and it's used to treat influenza and other fever-producing conditions. I don't know if it could be used with COVID. I haven't tried to, thankfully. Thank all the deities that are watching over me and mine. We have not had COVID in my household, and I'm very, very happy about that and hope that continues. But you can get it at most health food stores, but it's really, the reason it's called boneset is it was used to treat the really virulent influenza strain known as bone break fever. And if you've had the flu, which I suspect most of the people watching this video have had the flu, but if you've had the flu, you feel like your bones are breaking and you just want to die. And thankfully, since we're taking all our COVID precautions, we haven't had the flu either, so yay, knock on wood. Associated with water and with Saturn, and apparently a lot of the herbs that I picked to talk about are also associated with water and with Saturn. I might have to do some thinking about that. But it's also used for protection and, you guessed it, exorcism. Okay, the next one is super, super easy to grow. It's in the mint family, and like all of the other mints, and we'll talk about that more when we actually get to mint. But if you're going to grow it, I highly recommend it. Putting on my Master Gardener hat, I recommend you grow this in a container because it can take over your world quick, fast, and in a hurry. It can be very invasive if you're not careful. But this next herb is catnip. And my cats apparently are a little weird for so many reasons. But for one of them, it's because they're not big fans of catnip. They have these little mice that have catnip in them and they chase them, but I don't think it's because of the catnip. I think it's because they just like to chase the little mice. They're actually more fans of actual mint, which is kind of funny. And they're both real fans of menthol, which is derived from mint. But anyway, catnip tea is a traditional remedy for stomach upsets, especially in children. Like I said, it is part of the mint family, but it's a more gentle version of mint. It also promotes perspiration, and a hot infusion, i.e. a hot tea, is good for feverish colds and flu. It's good for insomnia caused by restlessness, tension, or anxiety. So this is a good one. Maybe add some of the catnip to your chamomile tea, which we're going to talk about in just a second. Just as a calming, reduce your anxiety so you can get some sleep. It's associated with Venus and with water, and it's good for cat magic, which just stands to reason, right? Love, beauty, and happiness. And it's also good for encouraging prophetic or psychic dreams. I have a recipe for a blend of tea that is helpful if you're trying to produce psychic dreams or psychic visions. So this is one that would be good to maybe substitute in place of that super, super poisonous Belladonna. Okay. The next one is chamomile, like we just were discussing. The infusion of it is really good for relaxation and sleep-inducing properties. There are a lot of teas on the market that you can get at any supermarket, Walmart, Kroger, wherever you shop, that have chamomile in them, whether it's just chamomile, whether it's sleepy time tea, tension tamer. It comes in a number of different brand names, but a lot of it is due to its good for relaxation and sleep-inducing properties. That's why it's in those teas. It also has soothing antiseptic properties and may be applied externally to ulcers, burns, and eczema. So you can just brew some tea, soak a towel in it, let the towel cool. You don't want to apply hot tea water to a burn because ow. But just it'll help draw some of that heat out of it. Magically, it's associated with water and with the sun, and it's used for money, sleep, love, and purification. Pretty cool. Okay. So most of us have our favorites that we work with a lot, whether it's an essential oil, whether it's an herb, whether it's a candle color, whatever. But one of my favorite herbs to work with, culinarily, magically, or medicinally, is cinnamon. It's useful for colds and chills. It's helpful for indigestion and diarrhea. Cinnamon bark oil has antibacterial properties and helps prevent food poisoning. And that's one of the reasons why in hot, humid climates, like Middle Eastern food, things like that, Indian food, that there's a lot of cinnamon in those cuisines because it was useful to keep the meat from turning bad. So, they just developed a taste for it because, well, it kept you from getting sick eating the food. Magically, it's associated with fire and with the sun, and it's used in workings associated with spirituality, success, healing, power, psychic powers, love, protection, and lust. It helps raise your high spiritual vibrations, aids in healing, draws money, stimulates psychic powers, produces protective vibrations. So if you have one herb that you're going to use, this is a really good one because it's pretty, you can use it for a lot of different purposes. Okay, so the next one is Comfrey, and it's used to heal sprains, bruises, and cuts. It promotes healing of tissue and bone and reduces swelling, which further aids your healing. I've made a really great Comfrey salve before under the tutelage of someone who is actually a licensed herbalist. So, but my husband has, who you'll get to meet in another video here and there. He's my husband, my working partner, my best friend, all the things. My lizard of unusual size, but you'll get to meet him. Anyway, he's suffered from venous stasis ulcers for most of the time that we've been together. They are thankfully healed at this point. But one of the things that we did try to use was that Comfrey salve, and it didn't heal the ulcers, but it did help keep the skin emoliated and more flexible, because the ulcers come when the skin gets torn and things like that. So it's associated with water and with Saturn, again, used to ensure safety during travel, and the root is also used in money spells. Okay, moving right along, we have Dandelion, which is a diuretic herb, which means it helps with water retention, and it's a good source of potassium. That's one of the things that you really have to be careful with. Why, if you're on a diuretic that's been prescribed by your physician, some of them are known as potassium sparing diuretics, and some you need to take a potassium pill or a potassium supplement with them. Your doctor will tell you that if that's the case. If you're on a potassium sparing, you need to not take a potassium supplement, because then you can OD on the potassium, which, again, not a doctor, so we're not going to give medical advice here, but except to listen to your medical team. It also has a reputation as a blood cleanser, and it is helpful for skin diseases and rheumatism. It's a naturally caffeine-free coffee substitute. It's associated with air and Jupiter, and is useful for divination, wishes, and calling spirits. Pretty cool. Okay, next is Echinacea. I like Echinacea as a gardener because in our area, I don't know where any of the rest of you are watching from. Maybe I'll get those in the analytics, but in our area, it's a native plant to Tennessee, and I believe, I'll have to check on that. If I'm right, if I'm wrong, I'll put it in the description below, but I believe it's one of Tennessee's state flowers. But it is also known as coneflower. It's just an absolutely beautiful plant. It attracts beneficial pollinators to your garden. So that's just a kind of a gardening tip for us. It is also an excellent blood cleanser for clearing up septic sores, boils, and abscesses. It's antibacterial and helps strengthen the immune system. So if you have an autoimmune disorder, again, not a doctor, please talk to your physician about this, but if you do have autoimmunes, any herb that talks about it strengthens the immune system, it boosts the immune system, anything to do with the immune system, you want to exercise some caution, because it can cause some problems. So any herbs that you are taking or anticipate taking, want to take, just talk with your doctor about it. Some doctors are more open to herbal remedies than others. I know mine is amazing, and often he'll suggest herbals, but just talk with your doctor about the herbs that you're wanting to take, especially if you're on any other prescribed medications, because you don't want to interact with anything. And you know, anyway, we'll move on from there. Magically, it's used for strengthening spells, and so therefore, if you're doing any kind of magical working, adding some Echinacea can help strengthen the spell. Okay, moving right along, we have Feverfew. This is one that if you are a migraine sufferer, this is one that you might want to look into. It's really good for if you've got chronic headaches or migraines or anything like that. It's also good for indigestion and sleeplessness. It can be used as a migraine preventative because you chew the leaves on a daily basis, but there are some people that can produce mouth ulcers, so you want to be careful with them. Magically, it's used for protection against colds and fevers, as well as accidents, and is associated with water and with Venus. All right. Our next one is garlic, which is just, most people don't think of it as an herb, and I guess it isn't really technically an herb. I don't know. I need to look at the definition of herb, but it is super easy to grow. It just takes a long time. Here in zone 7A is where I am. I had to think about that for just a second. In zone 7A, it is typically put in the ground right around Halloween or Samhain, which we'll get to in talking about the Wheel of the Year. And it is harvested around the middle of June or at Litha, summer solstice. I like as a Wiccan to equate as much with my growing seasons to the Wheel of the Year as I can, because it just helps me stay in touch with nature and with the cycles of nature. But garlic is antibacterial, antimicrobial, can help prevent infection, lowers cholesterol. It's just downright tasty. So cinnamon is one of my favorites. Garlic is another of my favorites. It's associated with Mars and with fire, and it is used for protection, healing, lust, prevent theft, and, you guessed it, exorcism. Again, maybe that's where the whole thing with the vampires being, I don't know. That's a tangent. We're just not going to jump down those rabbit trails. All right, another herb that's pretty easy to grow, you can grow it in a container in your kitchen, is ginger. And I love ginger. I use it a lot. In conjunction with the previous herb of garlic, I use it a lot in my chicken soup because I make a medicinal chicken soup that we just love, because especially this time of year when we're all sniffly and snotty, and I sound pretty snotty tonight, and I apologize about that, friends. But ginger is used to treat colds and flu. It promotes sweating, and that helps you eliminate toxins. It stimulates circulation, aids in digestion, and has a calming effect on the digestive system, and therefore treats nausea. And I often, I have fibromyalgia, and one of the things that it affects, and it was one of those weird, if you don't know anything about fibro, maybe I'll do a video on it, but it's one of those things that it's just a gathering of symptoms that I just pretty much attribute everything that goes wrong to me to it, because it probably has something to do with the fibro. But one of the weird symptoms that I get are just weird bouts of nausea for absolutely no reason. And so I have some lemon ginger tea that I drink, and that tends to calm it down pretty good. Magically, it's associated with Mars and fire. It's used for workings of love, money, success, and power. This next one, again, is not what you'd think of as an herb necessarily. It's a fruit. It's a citrus fruit, in fact, and that's lemon. It's associated with the moon and with water, and it's used magically for longevity, purification, love, and friendship. And it's used as a medicinal remedy for colds and sore throats, and it's mildly antiseptic and a good source of vitamin C. So, you know, most of us have probably been told, oh, you don't feel good, have some tea with lemon. It's that vitamin C, those antioxidants that are so good for us when our immune system is taking a back seat and decided, nah, you can have a cold, it's fine. Lemon juice also has mild bleaching properties. If you're of the same age that I am, I'm not going to talk about what that is, but I know when I was in high school, one of the things to do was put lemon juice and water in a spray bottle, spray your hair, and go sit in the sun, and it would bleach your hair and make you kind of blonde. I've never been truly blonde, and that's okay. Although I'm sure I get dingy enough that people might think that I'm blonde. Please, if you are blonde, please do not take offense to that. I'm sorry, my bad. I have a blonde friend that collects blonde jokes, and she's like super, super smart. And I have another friend who is a PhD who's blonde, who is one of my absolute favorite people. So do not think I have a blonde judgment or anything. I'm jealous, okay? I'm jealous. I'm just kidding. All right, moving on. Another thing you can do with lemon juice, this is one of those grade school science tricks, is take a toothpick and dip it in lemon juice and then write on a piece of paper your secret message. And then if you hold it over a candle flame, the candle flame will make it turn black and you can read it. So you could probably use that magically, you know, write your working or your affirmation or your intention or whatever in lemon juice, and then maybe hold it over a flame on your altar or something. I don't know. I need to explore that possibility. I think it's kind of a cool idea. All right, our next herb today is marigold. This one is another one that's beneficial in the garden. It's good for pest control. I have marigolds planted in pretty much all of my raised beds. It not only prevents insect pests, but also deer pests, which I have a huge problem with. We may do some garden videos for the channel later on. I had another channel that I started that is mostly garden stuff, but I might combine forces and just have to concentrate on one channel for content. So if you're interested in garden stuff, just let me know and maybe we'll do some of that. But the one bed this year that I did not plant marigolds in just got decimated by the deer. So I fully 100% believe that it's the marigolds that keep them away. It's valuable. It's a valuable wound healing herb. And marigold ointment is useful for treating cuts, burns, bruises, and inflammations. A compress is useful for varicose veins. And I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I'm starting to get some. They're kind of annoying. They're little tiny ones, which I guess is just my age. But internally, marigold is useful as a digestive and can bring on delayed menstruation. So that's another one you want to be careful about. Anything that says brings on delayed menstruation or anything like that can be bad. It can basically cause an herbal abortion, and you want to, if that's not what you're intending to do, then just say no. It's associated with the sun and fire. It's useful for protection, prophetic dreams, legal matters, and strengthening psychic powers. So I'm all about that. That's one of the things I've been working on lately is, you know, meeting spirit guides and all that good stuff. So maybe we'll do a video on that too. I don't know. I like talking to people who can't talk back and tell me to shut up. All right, so now we're to mint. There's several different types of mint. You have peppermint, you get spearmint, you've got apple mint, you've got chocolate mint, all kinds of mint. The scientific names that I'm putting on the screen are for peppermint and for spearmint, because those are the two most prevalent. Spearmint is less strong, not as strong as peppermint, and so spearmint anything for kids is usually done with spearmint. It's useful for treating nausea and other stomach complaints. It has cooling, antispasmodic, anesthetic, and decongestant properties. So you'll see a lot of mint in like cough drops and things like that. And that's where menthol comes from. Again, my cats are big fans of menthol, especially Hermione, who's my little gray and white tuxedo. It can also be used as an inhalation to clear nasal congestion. Can alleviate tension headaches and migraines. And I have a little roller that just sits here on my desk. It's just a little roller thing that I got from Amazon. And I have a couple of them, and this one is, I have a little green dot here that just lets me know that this is my peppermint. Although if you open it and smell it, you can tell. But if I start to get a headache, I just put a little bit across my forehead and on my temples. Sometimes I'll put it on the back of my neck and cover it with a cool cloth. Just if I'm starting to get nauseated, I will just smell it because it smells really good. Magically, it's associated with mercury and with air. It's useful for workings for money, lust, healing, travel, exorcism, again, and protection. And as I mentioned before with catnip, mint should be grown in containers because it does have a tendency to spread all over. Just learn from me. Okay. Next herb, we're coming down the home stretch, friends. Next herb is mullein. And this one has antispasmodic and expectorant properties. It's used to treat asthma and consumption and a wide range of respiratory ailments such as bronchitis. It's associated with fire and with Saturn, and it's used magically for courage, protection, health, love, divination, and, you've guessed it, exorcism. And our final herb, again, there are so many more to choose from, but the final one is yarrow. And yarrow is used to staunch bleeding, reduce swelling, and it is anti-inflammatory. It's a principal remedy for feverish colds, and influenza, and is often combined with elderflower and peppermint to treat those. Magically, it's associated with Venus and water and is used for workings related to courage, love, psychic powers, and exorcism. So, those are my top 20 herbs to discuss today. If there's interest in like a part 2 or a part 3 of other herbs that we want to discuss, if you're interested in learning how to grow any of them, or if you would be interested in me showing you what they look like being grown, I can get some seeds if I don't already have them, because I'm starting my garden plan before too much longer. So that's pretty much the video for today. And again, the books I referenced are Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs and Anna Kruger's Illustrated Guide to Herbs, their Medicine and Magic. And again, I will put that links to those if I can find them in the description. And I hope that you got something out of this today. And if there are other videos that you're interested in seeing, just drop me a comment below and I will try to put them in the rotation. But I do appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me today, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Till next time.